Settle in, dear listener. Let the weight of the day slowly lift from your shoulders as you find a comfortable place to rest. Tonight, we invite you on a gentle journey, not forward into tomorrow, but backward, far backward, into the quiet depths of a world we have only begun to understand. Close your eyes softly, breathe slowly, and let the story carry you. Something unusual rests at the heart of the ancient world, a quiet contradiction that traditional archaeology finds difficult to confront. Scattered across every continent, separated by vast stretches of time, enormous stone monuments stand in silent witness to capabilities that should not have existed when they were built. The extraordinary precision of their construction, the sheer scale of their ambition, and the mathematical intelligence woven into their foundations all point towards something our accepted understanding of early civilization struggles to accommodate. These structures share qualities that, according to established timelines of human progress, simply should not be there. At Pumapunku, resting high on the Bolivian Altiplano, at an elevation of nearly 13,000 feet, we find stone blocks that speak of a craftsmanship unlike anything conventional archaeology comfortably explains. The andesite and red sandstone used throughout the site has been shaped with surfaces so perfectly flat and angles so precisely square that they seem to belong to a different era entirely. The interlocking joints between blocks were cut to tolerances measured not in centimeters, but in fractions of millimeters. Among the most remarkable features are the so-called H-blocks, massive stones weighing between 130 and 180 tons each, which display channels and notches of such extraordinary accuracy that when assembled, a credit card cannot be slipped between their fitted faces. Mainstream archaeology places the construction of Pumapunku around 600 years after the birth of Christ, crediting the Tiwanaku civilization with its creation using tools of copper, hammers of stone, and levers carved from wood. Yet when one examines the actual surfaces of these stones, carefully and patiently, this explanation begins to dissolve. There are no pecking marks, no gradual shaping impressions left by hand tools working stone bit by bit. Instead, surfaces appear to have been produced in single, clean passes, smooth enough to reflect light the way a mirror does. The red sandstone blocks add yet another layer of mystery. That particular stone, quarried from sources more than 60 miles distant, contains quartz crystals that copper tools, which rate only 3.5 on the Mohs hardness scale, cannot effectively cut, since quartz rates 7. Yet these stones carry the same meticulous finish found everywhere else across the site. What makes Pumapunku still more extraordinary is the arrangement of its stones across the landscape. Even in their current state of apparent ruin and disarray, blocks toppled and scattered as if by some tremendous ancient upheaval, the precision of each individual piece remains fully intact. The disruption of the site suggests not gradual weathering, but sudden catastrophe, as though whatever force arranged these stones so carefully was matched by an equally powerful force that undid the arrangement in a single violent moment. Some researchers have proposed that a massive flood event, consistent with oral traditions of the Aymara people who live in the region today, may have swept through the Altiplano at some distant point in the past, scattering what had once been a coherent architectural complex of breathtaking sophistication. The oral histories speak of a great civilization that existed before the current age, builders of legendary skill whose works were overthrown by water and time. The stones themselves, lying in their patient disorder, do not contradict these memories. The overall dimensions of the Pumapunku complex, when carefully mapped and measured, reveal an underlying geometric order that persists even through the devastation. Researchers who have spent years cataloging the scattered blocks have noted that the positions of the largest stones, even fallen and displaced, correspond to a master plan of remarkable regularity. The site appears to have been organized around a central axis aligned with astronomical reference points, with secondary structures positioned according to geometric relationships that mirror proportional systems found in other ancient sites thousands of miles away. This suggests not merely local architectural tradition, but participation in a broader framework of knowledge about space, measurement, and the relationship between terrestrial construction and celestial order. Moving northward through the quiet Andes, the great fortress complex of Sacsayhuaman looks out over the city of Cusco at an altitude of 12,000 feet. Here, limestone blocks weighing up to 200 tons interlock so tightly that centuries of earthquakes have not been able to separate them. The largest single stone at the site has been estimated at 361 tons. It was somehow transported to its elevated position from quarries miles away through terrain that poses staggering difficulties even to modern engineering. Official archaeology attributes Sacsayhuaman's construction to the Inca civilization, beginning around the year 1440. Spanish chroniclers of the colonial period dutifully recorded Inca traditions that the Inca themselves had merely rebuilt structures left behind by an earlier people, accounts that mainstream scholarship tends to dismiss as mythology. The stones themselves, however, tell a different story. The most precisely fitted blocks occupy the lowest foundation levels, while construction higher up in the walls grows progressively cruder, consistent with skills that developed later. The polygonal fitting technique visible in the lower walls is particularly astonishing. Individual blocks, some with as many as 12 faces, fit perfectly against their neighbors despite their irregular shapes. To achieve this, each face must be carved to exact angles to maintain stability against every adjacent stone. The geometric calculations required for this work, carried out in 3 dimensions, accommodating irregular shapes simultaneously, exceed what should have been achievable for civilizations without written mathematical systems or precision measuring instruments. Tool marks preserved in the stone add another quiet anomaly to the record. Later, Inca additions show the percussion marks one expects from bronze tools and stone hammers. But the original megalithic blocks show something different. Smooth, uniform surfaces suggesting cutting methods unknown to pre-Columbian civilization. Some blocks carry what appear to be saw marks, parallel grooves implying blades of a length that has never appeared in the archaeological record. There is a particular quality to Sacsayhuaman at certain hours that visitors often remark upon: a stillness, a sense of accumulated time pressing gently against the present moment. The massive stones, each one unique in its irregular geometry, yet perfectly fitted to its neighbors, create an impression not of mechanical construction, but of organic growth, as though the walls had somehow grown from the hillside itself. Local Quechua tradition holds that the stones were softened and shaped through the use of a plant extract, a juice pressed from certain herbs found in the Andean highlands that could temporarily render stone as workable as clay. Whether this tradition preserves a memory of actual technique or represents a poetic metaphor for capabilities too advanced to describe in literal terms, remains an open question that the stones themselves decline to answer. The Inca called Sacsayhuaman the head of the puma, for their capital city of Cusco was laid out in the shape of that great cat, with the fortress forming the animal's crowned and watchful head. That such a vast and precise construction project was embedded within a larger urban design conceived as a living animal form speaks to the integration of engineering, cosmology, and symbolic thought that characterized the civilization responsible for the site's foundations. Whatever people built those lower walls thought in systems, not in isolated structures. Far to the north and east, in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, the ancient site of Baalbek presents what may be the most audacious stone construction ever attempted. The Roman Temple of Jupiter was built upon a foundation platform assembled from limestone blocks of almost incomprehensible size. 3 stones forming part of the western wall, the famous trilithon, weigh approximately 800 tons each, dwarfing even the largest granite blocks in the Great Pyramids, which reach a comparatively modest 70 tons. At the quarry site, just a quarter-mile away, 2 additional blocks were never moved to their intended positions. One, known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighs an estimated 1,000 tons. The other, discovered more recently, approaches 1,650 tons, the largest known worked stone blocks on Earth, carved from living bedrock with precision suggesting advanced quarrying methods. The engineering challenge these stones represent is staggering. Moving an 800-ton block requires overcoming a static friction force that would demand pulling effort exceeding 1,600 tons under optimal conditions. The path from quarry to temple includes an uphill grade that multiplies this requirement enormously. Roman engineering, sophisticated as it undeniably was, produced cranes with maximum lifting capacities of around 6 tons, the largest that ancient written sources describe. Yet the trilithon blocks sit in their final positions, with joints so tight that a knife blade cannot be inserted between them, showing no evidence of final trimming adjustments. They were cut to exact dimensions at the quarry, then placed with tolerances of less than an inch, maintained across surfaces 60 feet long. The question of who built the original platform at Baalbek, prior to the Romans, who clearly built their temples upon a pre-existing foundation, remains genuinely unresolved. Ancient Phoenician traditions associated the site with the very beginning of human civilization, some accounts suggesting it was built before the Great Flood that ancient Near Eastern cultures universally remembered. Arabic legends called it the work of giants, or of jinn, supernatural beings of enormous power. The Romans themselves, practical engineers of the highest order, apparently found the existing platform so impressive and so perfectly suited to their purposes that they simply built upon it without modification, accepting its presence as a given rather than questioning its origin. Whatever civilization placed those 800-ton stones in their current positions left no other trace in the archaeological record. No tools, no waste material, no intermediate stages of construction that might reveal their methods. They came, they built the impossible, and they departed without leaving a single explanatory artifact behind. Acoustic properties discovered inside megalithic structures around the world add yet another quiet layer of mystery. At Newgrange in Ireland, the stone passage tomb's inner chamber resonates naturally at a frequency of 95 Hz, a pitch that falls precisely within the range of the male baritone voice. This resonance amplifies human voices while filtering outside noise, creating an acoustic environment that appears deliberately designed for ceremonial use. Achieving such a specific acoustic result requires sophisticated understanding of sound wave physics and architectural acoustics. The same phenomenon appears elsewhere. The Hippogrium of Halsaflieni in Malta, carved entirely from solid limestone, features chambers that resonate at different frequencies in different areas. Voices spoken in certain locations become amplified and sustained. Sounds from other areas remain muffled and contained. The mathematical precision needed to carve spaces with such targeted acoustic behavior implies advanced knowledge of wave mechanics and harmonic relationships. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, acoustic studies have found that the great T-shaped limestone pillars, each carved from a single block weighing up to 60 tons, ring like bells when struck, producing sustained tones that vary with their size and position. The arrangement of these resonating elements appears deliberate, suggesting a thoughtfully composed soundscape designed to accompany ritual activities within the circular enclosures. Göbekli Tepe deserves particular attention in this regard, for it stands as perhaps the oldest of all the major megalithic sites yet discovered, its construction dating to approximately 11,500 years before the present, roughly 6,000 years before Stonehenge, and more than 7,000 years before the generally accepted beginning of organized urban civilization in Mesopotamia. That the oldest known monumental architecture on Earth was not a granary or a marketplace or a defensive wall, but an elaborate temple complex with carefully tuned acoustic properties, tells us something profound about the priorities of whoever built it. Before agriculture, before pottery, before metallurgy as conventionally understood, human beings were gathering in organized groups to carve enormous stone pillars and arrange them in precise circles, whose acoustic properties enhanced the human voice in ways that modern researchers are only now beginning to quantify. The pillars themselves are decorated with carved reliefs of animals: scorpions, foxes, vultures, cranes, aurochs, wild boar, rendered with a naturalistic skill that would not seem out of place in a much later artistic tradition. Some pillars carry abstract symbols whose meaning has not yet been deciphered. The T-shaped form of the pillars themselves, repeated across multiple enclosures with subtle variations, suggests a standardized architectural grammar, a shared symbolic vocabulary being expressed in stone by builders who clearly communicated with one another across time and across the physical expanse of the site. Whoever these people were, they were organized, they were skilled, and they were expressing ideas complex enough to require a shared symbolic language carved into structures weighing dozens of tons. Astronomical alignments throughout megalithic structures demonstrate observational and mathematical capabilities that exceed conventional expectations for their supposed periods. At Stonehenge, the alignment with solstices and lunar standstills required precise observation conducted over multiple decades, combined with geometric calculations translating celestial events into fixed terrestrial markers. The positioning of the heelstone creates a sight line framing the summer solstice sunrise with accuracy within a single degree, maintained despite the monument's construction spanning several centuries. The Goseck Circle in Germany, dating to approximately 4,900 years before the Common Era, demonstrates even more nuanced astronomical sophistication. Its gates are positioned to frame the winter solstice sunrise and sunset with remarkable precision, and the builders appear to have compensated for atmospheric refraction effects near the horizon, an adjustment that implies understanding of optical physics conventionally attributed to much later eras. Nabta Playa, in the Egyptian Sahara, may present the most complex megalithic astronomy of all. The stone circle constructed around 6,000 years ago incorporates alignments tracking not only solar and lunar cycles, but also the precession of the equinoxes, the slow, centuries-long wobble of Earth's axis that gradually shifts the apparent positions of stars. Sight lines built into the arrangement of standing stones remained accurate for tracking celestial events across millennia, requiring calculations of extraordinary depth and patience. The precision of these astronomical alignments grows more remarkable when one considers the instruments supposedly available to their builders. Accurate celestial observation requires stable reference points and precise measuring tools. The angular measurements achieved at these sites, accurate to fractions of degrees and maintained across projects spanning decades or centuries, exceed the capabilities of any measuring instruments yet found in the archaeological record for these periods. Across the island of Malta, the ancient temple complexes of Gantija, Menasdra, and Tarsian form a constellation of megalithic structures that together represent one of the most concentrated collections of ancient precision construction anywhere in the world. The Menasdra temple is particularly celebrated for its astronomical properties. At the spring and autumn equinoxes, the rising sun sends a shaft of light through the temple's main doorway that falls precisely upon a carved threshold stone inside, marking the moment with geometric exactitude. At the solstices, the sunlight falls instead upon different stones positioned on either side of the entrance, the temple serving as a calendar of stone that announces the turning points of the year with silent precision. The people who designed this alignment had to understand not only the movement of the sun, but the specific geometry of their own construction well enough to predict, before a single stone was placed, exactly where sunlight would fall when the building was complete. The temples of Malta are built from coralline limestone and globigerina limestone, two different varieties of stone with different working properties. The builders selected different stones for different structural and decorative purposes with apparent deliberateness, using the harder coralline limestone for external walls and foundation courses where durability was most critical, and the softer globigerina for interior decorative elements where detailed carving was required. This selective use of materials according to their specific properties speaks to a sophisticated understanding of geology and material science, an understanding that conventional timelines struggle to accommodate for a culture that supposedly lacked writing and metal tools. Construction techniques at megalithic sites reveal sophisticated structural knowledge that challenges accepted timelines. The Corbelled Dome at Newgrange demonstrates careful understanding of structural mechanics, with each successive ring of stones precisely calculated to gradually close the interior space while maintaining stability. The final capstone, weighing several tons, rests perfectly balanced at the dome's apex without mortar or additional support. Transportation of megalithic stones remains unexplained by conventional methods. On Easter Island, the Moai statues, some weighing up to 82 tons, somehow traveled from the volcanic quarry at Rano Raraku to destinations across the island, including a ceremonial platform where 15 statues stand in a precise line. Experimental attempts to move replica figures using techniques supposedly available to the Rapa Nui people have achieved only limited success with much smaller stones, and only under ideal conditions rarely encountered in actual construction. The island of Easter Island itself occupies one of the most remote inhabited locations on Earth. More than 2,000 miles from the nearest continental landmass, separated from the Polynesian archipelagos by vast stretches of open Pacific Ocean. That a relatively small population living on this isolated volcanic outcrop managed to quarry, transport, and erect hundreds of massive stone figures, many of them wearing enormous stone hats called pukao that were raised separately to their heads and required their own transportation and placement, represents a logistical achievement of extraordinary complexity. The quarry at Rano Raraku contains nearly 400 unfinished statues in various stages of completion, some still attached to the bedrock, as though work stopped suddenly and without warning. The largest unfinished moai, if completed, would have stood over 20 meters tall and weighed over 200 tons. Whatever halted the work at Rano Raraku apparently did so with great abruptness, leaving an archaeological record that feels suspended in mid-motion, like a held breath. The evidence, taken together, suggests that the builders of megalithic structures possessed capabilities that conventional archaeology has not yet fully acknowledged. The precision of their stonework, the scale of their ambitions, and the sophistication of their astronomical knowledge point toward technical and mathematical abilities that challenge our understanding of what ancient people could do. These silent structures stand as testimony to achievements that may predate our accepted timeline of development, quietly inviting us to reconsider our assumptions about the progression of human knowledge. Alongside these impossible stones, metallurgical artifacts present even more direct contradictions to established technological timelines. These objects, crafted from materials and alloys that conventional scholarship insists lay beyond the reach of their creators, compel us to consider the possibility that advanced metallurgy existed long before its supposed discovery. Here the evidence lies not in massive constructions that might conceivably be explained through clever mechanical ingenuity, but in the molecular composition of metals themselves, where modern analytical techniques reveal sophistication that should not exist. Standing in the courtyard of the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque in Delhi, the iron pillar of Qutb presents perhaps the most compelling challenge to our understanding of ancient Indian metallurgy. This wrought iron column, 7.21 meters tall and weighing approximately 6.5 tons, has stood through Delhi's monsoon rains and temperature extremes for over 1,600 years, without developing significant rust. In a city where modern steel structures require constant maintenance against corrosion, this pillar's endurance is extraordinary. Metallurgical analysis conducted by the Indian Institute of Technology has revealed the pillar's unusual composition. Its iron contains elevated phosphorus levels, between 0.25 and 0.28%, compared to typical ancient iron artifacts that rarely exceed 0.05%. This phosphorus creates a protective crystalline layer on the surface that prevents oxygen from reaching the metal beneath. Forming this protective coating requires precise phosphorus distribution throughout the entire iron matrix, and achieving that uniformity in a 6.5-ton pillar demands temperature control and process management that exceed documented capabilities of 4th century Indian metallurgy. The pillar shows no welding joints or forge marks suggesting assembly from smaller sections, implying it was forged as a single piece, a feat requiring furnace capabilities far beyond what archaeological evidence supports for that era. Microscopic examination adds further anomalies. The iron displays a remarkably uniform grain structure with minimal slag inclusions, indicating purification processes approaching modern industrial standards. The absence of sulfur, typically present in ancient iron smelting, suggests exceptionally pure source materials or advanced purification techniques. Carbon content uniformity varies by less than 0.02% throughout the structure, a precision that modern metallurgy still finds challenging to match in large-scale iron production. The Sanskrit inscription carved into the pillar provides its own quiet mysteries. The text praising King Chandragupta II was carved after the pillar's installation, yet the carving process produced no rust staining around the incised areas where the protective phosphate layer was necessarily breached. Modern attempts to replicate this corrosion resistance using traditional Indian metallurgical techniques have failed to produce iron with comparable longevity, even when using phosphorus-rich ores and attempting to recreate ancient smelting conditions. The pillar stands as a daily demonstration in the middle of a living city that something was known to ancient Indian metallurgists that we have not yet recovered, a knowledge so thoroughly integrated into practice that it left no explanatory texts, only the enduring evidence of the metal itself. Moving to Eastern Europe, the Aiud wedge presents an even more dramatic challenge. Discovered in 1974 during excavations along the Mureș River in Romania, this aluminum object allegedly emerged from geological layers dated to approximately 20,000 years ago, predating the supposed discovery of aluminum by nearly 20,000 years. The wedge measures 20 centimeters in length, weighs 2.3 kilograms, and displays machining marks and a complex shape that suggests deliberate manufacture rather than natural formation. Aluminum's extraction from ore requires enormous energy. It never occurs in metallic form in nature due to its extreme affinity for oxygen. The modern Hall-Héroult process, developed in 1886, uses electrolysis at temperatures exceeding 950 degrees Celsius and consumes roughly 15,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity per ton produced. Analysis of the Aiud wedge reveals aluminum of 89% purity, with the remaining composition including copper, silicon, zinc, lead, tin, zirconium, cadmium, nickel, cobalt, bismuth, and silver, an alloy combination matching no known natural aluminum compound. The surface displays parallel grooves and machining marks consistent with precision cutting tools. Electron microscopy reveals tool marks of uniform depth and spacing, while the object's aerodynamic shape and specific angular geometry suggest purposeful design. The geological dating of surrounding sediment layers consistently indicates an age of approximately 20,000 years, with no evidence of disturbance that might explain a more recent object's presence in older layers. Among the less widely discussed but equally challenging metallurgical anomalies are the zinc smelting operations documented at Zawar in Rajasthan, India. At this site, archaeologists have found evidence of large-scale zinc smelting that dates to the 9th century of the Common Era, and possibly earlier, predating the supposed independent European discovery of zinc smelting technology by several centuries. The Zawar operations were remarkably sophisticated, employing a retort distillation process that correctly solved one of the central challenges of zinc metallurgy. Zinc boils at a temperature below its melting point, meaning that conventional smelting methods cause it to vaporize before it can be collected in liquid form. The Zawar smelters solved this problem by designing retorts that allowed zinc vapor to rise, condense, and be collected, a solution that requires not only practical experience, but a conceptual understanding of distillation as a process. The scale of the Zawar operations was industrial. Archaeologists have estimated that the site produced millions of kilograms of zinc over its operational lifetime, representing organized, systematic metallurgical production of a sophistication that sits uncomfortably within conventional narratives of medieval Indian technology. The Muisca people of Colombia, flourishing between approximately 600 and 1600 of the Common Era, produced goldwork demonstrating capabilities extending well beyond simple ornamental craftsmanship. They mastered tumbaga, an alloy combining gold and copper in precise proportions to achieve specific color and mechanical properties. Temperature variations of even 50 degrees Celsius during the alloying process can render the metal brittle or unworkable. Yet the Muisca achieved copper to gold ratios ranging from 10 to 70% copper content, each ratio producing distinct colors from pale yellow to deep red. This level of control indicates sophisticated understanding of metallurgical chemistry and precise temperature management. More remarkable still, several pre-Columbian cultures worked with platinum, a metal that requires temperatures exceeding 1768 degrees Celsius to melt. The La Tolita Tumaco culture of coastal Ecuador and Colombia, active between 600 BCE and 200 CE, produced intricate platinum ornaments, including nose rings, ear spools, and decorative plates, employing techniques of hammering annealing, and welding. Traditional ceramic furnaces used by these cultures typically achieved maximum temperatures around 1200 degrees Celsius, more than 500 degrees below platinum's melting point. Analysis of La Tolita platinum artifacts reveals evidence of powder metallurgy techniques where platinum particles are compressed and sintered at temperatures below the metal's melting point. Some pieces show platinum-gold alloys created through diffusion bonding, requiring precise temperature and pressure control to achieve uniform alloy distribution. Most puzzling of all, no furnace remains or slag deposits indicating local platinum smelting have been found at La Tolita sites, despite extensive evidence of gold and copper working nearby. Damascus steel, renowned throughout the medieval world for exceptional sharpness and a characteristic flowing pattern, carries its own mystery that modern science has only recently begun to penetrate. Blades forged in Damascus between the 3rd and 17th centuries maintained razor edges while exhibiting the flexibility to resist breaking under combat stress. Recent electron microscopy analysis of authentic Damascus blades has revealed microscopic structures approaching the scale of nanotechnology. Carbon nanotubes and cementite nanowires distributed throughout the metal matrix in patterns that simultaneously enhance hardness and flexibility. These structures, measuring between 10 and 50 nanometers in diameter, create a composite material where hard carbide phases provide cutting ability, while softer iron phases absorb impact energy. Forming such nanostructures requires precise control over cooling rates, carbon distribution, and forging temperatures. Control that medieval smiths achieved through generations of empirical refinement without any understanding of the underlying physics. Modern attempts to recreate Damascus steel using traditional techniques have produced blades with similar visual appearance, but lacking the nanoscale organizational structure found in historical examples. The raw material for Damascus blades, wood steel, originated in specific regions of India and Sri Lanka, where smelters working with local ores and particular charcoal varieties developed production methods whose details were never fully recorded in writing. When the supply of authentic wood steel ended, sometime in the 18th century, the ability to produce genuine Damascus blades ended with it. The knowledge died with the last masters who held it, leaving behind only the blades themselves as evidence that such knowledge had once existed. There is something quietly melancholy in this. A tradition of sophistication, so thoroughly embodied in practice, so completely transmitted through direct instruction and example rather than text, that when the chain of transmission was broken, the knowledge simply ceased to exist. The steel endures. The understanding of how it was made does not. Ancient Chinese bronze artifacts reveal comparable sophistication. Bronze mirrors from the Han Dynasty display surface compositions differing significantly from their core metal, indicating surface treatment techniques that create functional gradients within single objects. These mirrors achieve reflectivity approaching modern silvered glass through surface layers with precisely controlled tin concentrations exceeding 25%, while cores maintain tin content below 10%. This gradient structure provides high reflectivity at the surface while preserving structural strength within. Microscopic analysis reveals grain refinement through controlled cooling that produces crystal structures measuring less than 10 micrometers across, a level of microstructural control requiring precise temperature management during casting and heat treatment that approaches modern foundry practices in sophistication. These anomalous metals and impossible alloys force a reconsideration of fundamental assumptions about technological development throughout human history. The corrosion-resistant iron of ancient India, the aluminum object predating aluminum's supposed discovery, The nanostructured steel of medieval Damascus and the functionally graded bronzes of Han China together demonstrate metallurgical capabilities that conventional archaeology struggles to accommodate within its accepted frameworks. The metallurgical mysteries pale, in their way, beside the enigmas posed by crystalline technologies and vitrified stone structures scattered across the globe. These artifacts and architectural remnants suggest mastery over materials and energy sources that conventional archaeology cannot adequately explain. Capabilities for generating temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius with precision control, applied to construction projects and artifact creation that demonstrate knowledge of crystalline properties and optical physics far beyond what Bronze Age civilization supposedly possessed. Across the Scottish Highlands, more than 60 ancient stone fortresses display evidence of vitrification so thorough that massive stone walls were transformed into glass-like substances. At Taponoth in Aberdeenshire, the hilltop fortress shows walls where granite blocks weighing several tons were subjected to temperatures exceeding 1,100 degrees Celsius, sufficient to melt the feldspar and quartz within the stone matrix. The vitrified material forms a continuous glassy mass that has fused individual stones into single monolithic barriers. Archaeological experiments attempting to recreate this vitrification using wood fires, the fuel supposedly available, have achieved only superficial surface melting even under optimal conditions with enormous quantities of timber. The complete vitrification observed at sites like Craig Fadrig near Inverness would have required sustained temperatures consuming entire forests worth of fuel. Yet no evidence exists of the massive charcoal deposits or ash layers such fires would have produced. At Dunderave in the Scottish Highlands, the vitrified walls display internal structures, suggesting that the heat source operated from within the stone mass itself. Rather than external burning that would create temperature gradients from outside surfaces inward, the stone shows uniform melting throughout its thickness, suggesting energy sources fundamentally different from combustion, possibly involving electrical or electromagnetic phenomena capable of heating stone from within its crystalline structure. At Finnevan Hill Fort in Angus, specific wall sections show complete vitrification, while adjacent areas remain entirely unaffected. The boundaries between vitrified and unvitrified stone sharp and well-defined, lacking the gradual transitions that would characterize spreading fire or uncontrolled heat. Chemical analysis of vitrified materials at many sites reveals compositional changes extending beyond simple melting, including trace elements not present in the original rock formations. These additions demonstrate sophisticated understanding of ceramic chemistry, pointing toward flux materials deliberately introduced to facilitate the process. Similar vitrified structures appear throughout Ireland, where ring forts and cashels display identical heat treatment patterns. The geographic distribution of vitrified forts extends beyond the British Isles into continental Europe, with examples in France, Germany, and Bohemia displaying the same internal heating patterns found in Scottish examples. The consistency of vitrification techniques across such vast distances implies either shared technological knowledge or contact between ancient builders separated by hundreds of miles of difficult terrain. When one considers the effort required to produce these structures, the planning, the sourcing of materials, the coordination of labor, the application of heat intense enough to melt stone, and then considers that this effort was replicated at 60 or more separate locations across a wide geographical range, the conclusion that a common technology was being applied becomes difficult to avoid. The Mitchell-Hedges skull, discovered in 1927 at the Mayan site of Lubantun in Belize, represents perhaps the most technically sophisticated example of pre-Columbian crystal carving. Fashioned from a single piece of clear quartz crystal weighing 11.7 pounds. The skull displays anatomical accuracy and optical properties suggesting manufacturing techniques far beyond conventional ancient lapidary work. Examination under high-powered microscopy reveals surfaces finished to optical precision, with surface irregularities measuring less than 100,000ths of an inch across polished areas, approaching what modern optical grinding equipment achieves. The skull shows no tool marks, scratches, or grinding patterns that would indicate use of abrasive materials or conventional lapidary methods. The skull's optical properties demonstrate sophisticated understanding of crystal physics. The piece was carved with the optical axis of the quartz precisely aligned with the skull's central axis, maximizing light transmission through the structure. The lower jaw, carved as a separate piece from the same crystal, fits the upper skull to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch, while maintaining optical alignment. Crystallographic analysis reveals that the carving followed the natural crystal structure of quartz, respecting cleavage planes and the mineral's internal lattice arrangement, a level of understanding that requires knowledge of crystal physics, enabling prediction of how quartz will respond to stress during shaping. The controversy surrounding crystal skulls deepens when one considers the Smithsonian skull and the British Museum skull alongside the Mitchell-Hedges example. These objects, held by major institutions whose credibility rests in part on their possession of authentic artifacts, present manufacturing characteristics that have resisted definitive explanation. The British Museum skull, acquired in 1897, is carved from milky quartz crystal and displays a more stylized anatomical approach than the Mitchell-Hedges example, but its polishing achieves surface finishes that approach modern optical standards through methods that microscopic examination has not yet fully clarified. Different researchers examining the same artifacts have reached different conclusions about their age and origin, the disagreements themselves reflecting the degree to which these objects resist accommodation within conventional frameworks. At Helwan in Egypt, excavations have uncovered rock crystal lenses dating to approximately 4,500 years ago. These lenses, ground to precise focal lengths with optical quality surfaces, demonstrate capabilities in precision optics that conventional archaeology places thousands of years later in human development. The Helwan lenses display aspheric grinding that corrects for optical aberrations, a sophisticated technique requiring understanding of geometric optics and precise process control. They achieve focal lengths ranging from 75 to 125 millimeters, with accuracy varying by less than 5% from calculated optimal values. The existence of precision optical lenses in ancient Egypt raises a question that conventional archaeology has been slow to fully address. What were they used for? A lens ground to a specific focal length and finished to optical quality represents a significant investment of skilled labor and technical knowledge. Such an investment implies a use, a purpose specific enough to justify the precise focal length, the smooth finish, the care taken in the grinding. One possibility, advanced by a number of researchers, is that these lenses were used in conjunction with other optical elements to create magnifying or illuminating devices that enhanced vision for fine craft work. Egyptian craftsmen produced artwork of extraordinary delicacy, carved hieroglyphs and painted figures at scales that strain the limits of unaided human vision, executed with precision that seems to demand optical assistance. If ancient Egyptian craftsmen possessed optical lenses, the quality of their finest work becomes somewhat less mysterious. But the lenses themselves then become the mystery. At Hattusa, the ancient Hittite capital in modern Turkey, massive limestone blocks show evidence of heat treatment that enhanced their structural properties, with internal changes consistent with controlled heating to temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Celsius, followed by rapid cooling. The treatment appears to have been applied selectively based on each stone's intended structural function, with foundation blocks showing more extensive modification than upper wall stones, suggesting that builders understood how thermal treatment could enhance load-bearing capacity. At Nan Madol in Micronesia, the megalithic city built on artificial islands required moving an estimated 250,000 tons of basalt across water barriers. Many columns weigh between 5 and 50 tons, yet display precision fitting that requires exact dimensional control during cutting. The construction of Nan Madol required not only moving these enormous stones, but first creating the artificial islands upon which the structures rest, a process that itself demanded the movement and placement of enormous quantities of material in the open sea, coordinated with sufficient precision to produce a stable platform capable of supporting megalithic construction. The local oral tradition attributes the construction of Nan Madol to two sorcerers, Olisihpa and Olosohpa, who arrived from a distant land and raised the stones using magic. As with so many ancient traditions about impossible construction, the supernatural explanation may preserve a genuine memory of technology so advanced that those who remembered it but could not replicate it had no other framework within which to describe it. Tektite glass deposits at various archaeological sites provide additional evidence of extreme heat phenomena associated with ancient construction activities, with some examples displaying layered structures and chemical compositions, suggesting formation through controlled heating processes rather than the chaotic conditions of meteorite impacts. The Muong Nong-type tektites found at archaeological sites in Vietnam and Laos display characteristics distinguishing them from impact-related tektites, including layered structures and chemical compositions consistent with formation through controlled heating. The presence of these materials at construction sites implies that ancient builders possessed methods for generating the extreme temperatures necessary for tektite formation. The thermal technologies and crystalline enigmas represent only one facet of the anomalies that pervade the archaeological record. Perhaps even more challenging to conventional historical narratives are the cartographic artifacts that demonstrate geographical knowledge centuries or millennia before the supposed discovery and mapping of the depicted regions. The Piri Reis map of 1513, created by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, depicts the Atlantic Ocean with remarkable accuracy, showing European, African, and American coastlines in correct relative positions. But its most startling feature lies in its southern extent. An accurate portrayal of Antarctica's northern coastline, complete with geographical details, mountain ranges, valleys, coastal features that were not officially discovered until the 20th century. Modern seismic surveys and ice-penetrating radar have confirmed the accuracy of these details, which match actual bedrock topography beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. The map shows the Antarctic Peninsula extending northward towards South America, with coastal indentations and offshore islands positioned with precision approaching modern cartographic standards. Conventional geology maintains that Antarctica's ice sheet has remained stable for millions of years, making an ice-free coastline theoretically impossible to observe during human history. However, recent ice core analysis suggests portions of Antarctica may have experienced ice-free periods as recently as 6,000 years ago in coastal regions where geothermal activity could have maintained open water. The Piri Reis map also employs a modified azimuthal projection centered on Cairo, requiring complex trigonometric calculations to accurately represent Earth's curved surface on a flat plane. Mathematical sophistication that challenges assumptions about 16th century cartographic capabilities. In marginal notes on the map itself, Piri Reis states that he compiled his chart from approximately 20 source maps, including charts used by Christopher Columbus and maps dating to the time of Alexander the Great. The Orontius Phineus map of 1531 corroborates this ancient Antarctic knowledge, depicting the continent as a separate landmass at the South Pole, complete with mountain ranges, rivers, and coastal features corresponding to the continent's actual subglacial geography. The map shows river systems flowing from Antarctica's interior mountains to the coast following drainage patterns that match the bedrock topography revealed by modern ice-penetrating surveys. Valleys carved into rock millions of years ago, still hidden beneath thousands of feet of ice, accurately represented on a 16th century map. The Haji Ahmed map of 1559 presents additional cartographic anomalies worth careful consideration. This map, produced by an Ottoman cartographer working from sources he did not fully identify, depicts the western coast of North America with a level of accuracy that should have been impossible given the state of European exploration at that time. Coastal features of the Pacific Northwest, including major inlets and promontories, appear in positions that correspond well to modern cartographic surveys of the same region. Yet, official European exploration of the Pacific Northwest did not begin until decades after this map was created. The source material that informed the Haji Ahmed map, whatever it was, appears to have included geographical knowledge of the Pacific coast of North America, obtained through means that our accepted historical record does not document. Medieval European maps contain additional evidence of geographical knowledge predating official exploration. The Dulcert Portolan chart of 1339 displays the Mediterranean Sea and Atlantic coasts with accuracy rivaling modern navigation charts, showing correct compass bearings between ports, accurate distances along sailing routes, and detailed coastal features. The Cantino Planisphere of 1502 depicts newly discovered American coastlines, with accuracy showing geographical features not officially mapped until decades later. Ancient Babylonian world maps from the 6th century BCE demonstrate geographical concepts extending far beyond Mesopotamian regional knowledge, with distance relationships suggesting mathematical knowledge of Earth's circumference. Chinese maps from the Han Dynasty display geographical knowledge encompassing regions far beyond Chinese political influence, with the UG2 map carved in stone in 1136 CE, based on much earlier sources, showing coastlines, major rivers, and mountain ranges with accuracy matching modern topographical surveys. The geographical scope of ancient Chinese maps extends to include regions not officially contacted until much later periods. Some Chinese charts show islands and coastlines corresponding to Southeast Asian and Pacific regions, depicted with accuracy suggesting direct observation rather than speculative geography. The consistency of these geographical features across multiple Chinese sources indicates systematic knowledge rather than isolated discoveries. The precision of ancient Chinese coastal mapping becomes apparent when comparing historical charts with modern satellite imagery. River deltas, coastal indentations, and offshore islands appear in correct relative positions, with accuracy approaching contemporary cartographic standards. The Fra Mauro map, created by the Venetian monk Fra Mauro around 1450, represents one of the most comprehensive world maps of the medieval period, and contains details that challenge conventional understanding of pre-modern geographical knowledge. The map depicts Africa with remarkable accuracy, including the southern tip of the continent and the shape of the coastline around the Cape of Good Hope, a region that European explorers did not officially reach until Bartolomeo Diaz rounded the Cape in 1488, nearly 4 decades after the map's creation. Fra Mauro explicitly noted in his annotations that his information about the southern African coast came from travelers and mariners who had actually sailed those waters. Travelers whose identities and routes are not recorded in any surviving historical account. The implication, which Fra Mauro himself seemed to take quite matter-of-factly, is the detailed knowledge of southern Africa's geography was circulating in 15th century Venice through channels that our historical records have not preserved. The navigation techniques implied by these ancient maps demonstrate capabilities exceeding documented historical knowledge. Accurate ocean charts require precise determination of longitude, a problem that challenged European navigators until accurate chronometers were developed in the 18th century. Ancient maps showing correct longitudinal relationships across vast ocean distances suggest access to timekeeping technology or alternative navigation methods that remain undocumented in the historical record. Tidal information included on ancient portolan charts shows understanding of lunar influences on ocean behavior requiring long-term astronomical observation combined with systematic tidal measurements across multiple coastal locations, suggesting maritime knowledge networks that encompassed entire ocean basins. The cartographic impossibilities represent only one category of technological anachronisms preserved in historical records. Ancient texts contain detailed technical descriptions, and artistic works contain depictions of advanced machinery that appear with remarkable precision and consistency across diverse cultures, technologies that supposedly did not exist until the modern era. In the basement of the Baghdad Museum, discovered during excavations near Kujut Rabu in 1936, archaeologist Wilhelm König uncovered ceramic jars dating to approximately 250 years before the Common Era. These vessels contained copper cylinders sealed with asphalt plugs and iron rods extending into acidic solutions, components matching precisely those of a galvanic cell, suggesting knowledge of electrochemical principles over 2 millennia before Alessandro Volta's supposed invention of the electric battery in 1800. When reconstructed using identical materials and proportions, the device generates approximately 1.1 volts of electrical current, sufficient for small electrochemical applications. Microscopic examination of copper artifacts from the same context reveals surface treatments consistent with electroplating, with silver and gold objects displaying uniform metallic coatings, with thickness variations less than 1/1000th of an inch. Modern reconstructions using Baghdad battery replicas have successfully produced similar electroplated finishes, confirming the device's practical capability. Chemical analysis of electrolyte residues reveals sophisticated knowledge of electrochemical solutions. Acetic acid from fermented fruit juices and citric acid from local citrus fruits, both providing optimal pH for efficient electrical generation. The geographical distribution of similar electrochemical devices extends far beyond Mesopotamia, with comparable artifacts discovered at sites throughout the ancient Near East. At Ctesiphon, the former Sasanian capital near modern Baghdad, excavations have uncovered ceramic vessels with identical construction to the original Baghdad batteries, suggesting widespread knowledge of electrochemical technology among Persian craftsmen. The iron rods used in the Baghdad batteries show evidence of deliberate surface treatment to enhance electrical conductivity, with metallurgical analysis revealing that the iron surfaces were cleaned and treated with compounds that prevent oxidation while maintaining optimal contact with the electrolyte solution. Workshop areas containing multiple batteries suggest industrial-scale electrochemical operations requiring coordinated electrical generation from multiple devices. The Vimana aircraft, described in Sanskrit texts dating to the 1st millennium BCE, present even more dramatic challenges. The Vaimanika Shastra, attributed to the sage Maharishi Bharadwaja, contains detailed technical specifications for aircraft construction that parallel modern aerospace engineering principles with striking specificity. Wing aspect ratios specified in the texts, between 6:1 and 8:1, fall within ranges modern aeronautical engineering recognizes as optimal for efficient subsonic flight. Control surface placement and sizing follow proportions that maintain stability across various flight conditions. Propulsion systems described include mercury-based engines generating thrust through controlled expansion of heated metallic vapors, concepts paralleling modern ion propulsion research. Navigation instruments described include devices functioning identically to modern gyroscopic compass systems and instruments detecting and analyzing sound waves to determine distance and direction, essentially sonar and radar, in texts written thousands of years before their supposed invention. The Samarangana Sutradhara, another Sanskrit text dealing with architectural and mechanical engineering, provides additional technical details for aircraft construction that demonstrate comprehensive understanding of structural engineering principles. The text specifies construction techniques for creating lightweight yet strong airframes using hollow structural members and stressed skin construction methods that modern aerospace engineering recognizes as optimal for aircraft design. Joint designs and fastening techniques described in the text ensure structural integrity under the stress loads encountered during flight operations. The metallurgical specifications for aircraft construction describe alloys and manufacturing techniques that exceed documented capabilities of ancient Indian technology, including references to a lightweight metal described as having strength exceeding iron while remaining resistant to heat and corrosion, properties closely corresponding to modern titanium alloys used in aerospace applications. What makes the Vimana texts particularly resistant to simple dismissal is their internal consistency. The different texts that describe flying vehicles use different terminology and approach the subject from different angles, some focusing on construction, others on navigation, others on the operational requirements of pilots. Yet the technical details they provide are mutually compatible. The aerodynamic principles encoded in the wing proportions are consistent with the flight performance characteristics described in the operational texts. The materials specified for construction are consistent with the thermal and stress loads implied by the described performance. This internal consistency suggests that the texts, whatever their ultimate source, were describing a coherent technological system rather than assembling random technical-sounding details. Medieval European art contains numerous depictions of objects bearing striking resemblance to modern aircraft and spacecraft. The famous astronaut carved on the Cathedral of Salamanca in 1102 CE depicts a human figure wearing what appears to be a modern spacesuit, complete with helmet, life support equipment, and maneuvering controls. Analysis of the carving technique reveals that the astronaut figure was integrated into the cathedral's original construction rather than added during later restoration, with stone weathering patterns and tool marks matching those throughout the 12th century construction. The Church of the Transfiguration in Kosovo contains a fresco dating to 1350 CE, depicting elongated streamlined objects with stabilizing fins and apparent propulsion systems generating visible exhaust trails, shown in flight above earthly scenes. The glorification of the Eucharist, painted by Ventura Salimbeni in 1600, contains imagery that has generated considerable scholarly controversy due to its apparent depiction of advanced technology. The painting shows a spherical object with geometric patterns and what appear to be technological details, including antennae, sensors, and mechanical components. Technical analysis of the spherical object reveals design elements corresponding to satellite technology and space-based communication systems, with geometric patterns on the object's surface matching the configuration of solar panel arrays used on modern satellites, while protruding elements resemble communication antennae and sensor equipment. Ancient Chinese texts describe mechanical devices and automated systems demonstrating sophisticated engineering knowledge. The Liezi, dating to the 4th century BCE, describes artificial humans created by the craftsman Yan Shi that could walk, sing, and perform complex tasks. Devices containing internal mechanisms that processed sensory input and generated appropriate behavioral responses, functioning as primitive artificial intelligence systems. The Mo Jing, a Mohist text from the 5th century BCE, contains descriptions of optical devices and principles predating the supposed development of optics by over a millennium, including mathematical relationships between object distance, image distance, and focal length that correspond precisely to fundamental optical equations. Chinese alchemical texts from the Tang Dynasty period describe chemical processes and laboratory equipment demonstrating sophisticated understanding of chemistry and material science. The texts detail procedures for creating compounds with specific properties, including explosives, pharmaceuticals, and advanced materials that require precise control over reaction conditions and chemical composition. The level of chemical knowledge described approaches that of modern analytical chemistry in its systematic approach to understanding molecular behavior. At Saqqara in Egypt, the tomb of Pedosiris contains reliefs that appear to depict electrical lighting systems illuminating underground chambers. The Dendera temple complex contains the famous Dendera light reliefs showing objects bearing striking resemblance to modern electrical discharge tubes, depicted with human figures operating them in a manner consistent with electrical equipment. Elongated bulb-shaped objects connected to what appear to be power sources and control systems. The question of how ancient Egyptian craftsmen illuminated the deep interior chambers of tombs and temples, where they carved and painted detailed artwork, is one that conventional archaeology addresses inadequately. The official answer, that mirrors and polished metal surfaces reflected and redirected natural sunlight into underground spaces, encounters the objection that detailed painting and carving was performed in chambers where no reflection-based system could have maintained sufficient light levels over extended periods. The absence of soot deposits on the ceilings and walls of these chambers, which would inevitably result from the prolonged use of oil lamps or torches, compounds the difficulty. Something provided adequate light for sophisticated artistic work in spaces where neither sunlight nor open flame appears to have been the answer. And the Dendera reliefs, whatever they ultimately depict, represent an ancient attempt to record something about the technology of illumination that has not been fully understood by the civilization that came after. The technological anachronisms preserved in ancient texts and artistic depictions represent only one facet of the evidence challenging conventional understanding. Perhaps even more compelling are the biological anomalies found in skeletal remains across the globe, suggesting that our species' evolutionary trajectory may be far more complex than mainstream science acknowledges. At Paracas, Peru, the necropolis discovered by archaeologist Julio Tello in 1928 contained over 300 elongated skulls, dating between 800 and 100 years before the Common Era. These remains exhibit cranial volumes measuring up to 1,500 cubic centimeters, compared to the average modern human brain capacity of 1,350 cubic centimeters. And the increased volume appears throughout the skull structure, rather than concentrated in areas typically affected by head binding. The skulls maintain proper proportional relationships between different cranial regions, suggesting natural rather than artificial elongation occurring during normal developmental processes. Morphological analysis reveals further anomalies. Parietal bones display unusual thickness patterns, with some areas measuring up to 6 millimeters thick compared to the normal human range of 2 to 4 millimeters. Suture patterns show configurations not found in standard human anatomy, with some skulls displaying only 2 parietal plates instead of the typical 3-plate configuration. The foramen magnum, the opening where the spinal cord connects to the brain, appears positioned differently than in normal human anatomy, affecting the skull's balance point in ways requiring corresponding adaptations in neck musculature and spinal alignment. Genetic analysis conducted on DNA extracted from Paracas skull samples has yielded results challenging conventional understanding of ancient South American populations. Initial mitochondrial DNA testing revealed haplogroups not commonly found among indigenous American populations, with some samples showing genetic markers more closely associated with European and Middle Eastern lineages in remains predating European contact by over a millennium. Nuclear DNA analysis of selected samples has produced even more anomalous results, with some specimens showing genetic variations that do not match any known human populations. These genetic anomalies appear particularly concentrated in genes controlling cranial development and brain growth. The geographic distribution of elongated skulls extends far beyond South America, with similar remains discovered in Bronze Age burials in Denmark, in the Caucasus region across more than 2 millennia of continuous occupation, and in dramatically elongated specimens from sites near Kerch on the Crimean Peninsula. In ancient Egypt, the tomb of Akhenaten at Amarna contained remains displaying elongated cranial features consistently throughout the royal family's skeletal remains, with paintings and sculptures from the Amarna period depicting members of the royal family with dramatically elongated heads matching actual skeletal proportions. The Egyptian royal family of the Amarna period presents a particularly concentrated example of the elongated skull phenomenon. Akhenaten himself, his wife Nefertiti, and their daughters are all depicted with dramatically elongated craniums that have been explained by some Egyptologists as an artistic convention expressing the divine nature of the royal family. But the physical remains recovered from royal tombs of the period show actual skeletal elongation that corresponds to the artistic depictions. The elongated heads in the paintings are not an artistic invention, but a record of physical reality. Whether this elongation resulted from deliberate head binding practiced on royal infants, from a genetic trait concentrated within the royal bloodline through generations of intermarriage, or from some other cause entirely remains unresolved. What is clear is that the royal family of Amarna was physically distinctive in a way that their contemporaries thought significant enough to record consistently across all media. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, newspaper accounts and archaeological reports consistently documented the discovery of human skeletal remains reaching heights between 7 and 12 feet, found in burial contexts, indicating these individuals were integrated members of their communities. The Smithsonian Institution's annual reports from the late 1800s contain numerous references to giant skeletal discoveries made during official expeditions. The 1894 report describes excavations in Ohio, uncovering remains measuring between 8 and 9 feet in height, found in elaborate burial mounds alongside normal-sized individuals and sophisticated grave goods. Similar discoveries were reported across North America, with consistent reports from the Ohio River Valley, the Great Lakes region, and the southeastern United States. The Lovelock Cave excavations in Nevada, conducted between 1911 and 1929, produced desiccated human remains measuring up to 10 feet in height, preserved by arid conditions, and displaying proportional bone structure scaled up from normal human dimensions. The Lovelock Cave discoveries are particularly well documented precisely because of the excellent preservation conditions within the cave. The dry desert air desiccated organic materials that would have decomposed elsewhere, leaving behind not only bone, but also woven basketry, feather ornaments, duck decoys made from tulle reeds, and other perishable artifacts that provide an unusually complete picture of the culture represented in the cave's deposits. The Paiute oral tradition of the region preserves clear memories of a tall, red-haired people called the Sitika, who were the enemies of the Paiute's ancestors and were eventually driven out or destroyed. Some of the desiccated remains from Lovelock Cave displayed reddish hair, a characteristic not typical of indigenous American populations. The convergence of physical evidence and oral tradition at Lovelock represents the kind of corroborating record that is relatively rare in discussions of anomalous ancient remains. European archaeological records contain similar documentation of giant human remains. Medieval chronicles describe the discovery of enormous skeletons during construction projects and agricultural activities. The Chronicle of the Abbey of Saint-Denis records the discovery in 1171 of a skeleton measuring 12 feet in length found during the construction of the monastery foundation, with the chronicler noting that the bones were examined by learned men who confirmed their human origin despite the extraordinary size. The Starchild skull, discovered in Mexico around 1930 and subjected to intensive scientific analysis beginning in 1999, displays morphological characteristics differing significantly from normal human cranial development. The bone structure shows unusual thinness in some areas and exceptional density in others, creating a strength-to-weight ratio exceeding typical human bone properties. Genetic analysis has yielded fragmentary sequences showing significant differences from standard human genetic markers, with mitochondrial DNA containing unusual base pair sequences not found in any known human haplogroups. The skull's cranial capacity measures approximately 1,600 cubic centimeters, exceeding normal ranges for the estimated age at death. Eye socket configuration differs significantly from normal human orbital structure, with sockets larger, more circular, and positioned differently relative to other facial features. Recent advances in ancient DNA analysis have revealed unexpected genetic diversity within historical human populations. Neanderthal genetic contributions to modern human populations vary significantly across geographical regions, with some populations showing Neanderthal ancestry levels exceeding previous estimates. Denisovan genetic markers, first identified from remains in Siberia's Denisova Cave, have been discovered in modern populations across a much wider range than predicted, with Pacific Islander populations showing Denisovan ancestry reaching 6% of their total genome. Ancient DNA analysis has also revealed previously unknown hominin lineages that contributed genetic material to modern human populations. Ghost populations leaving genetic signatures in contemporary genomes without corresponding fossil evidence. The discovery of Denisovan genetic material across such an unexpectedly wide geographical range has prompted a quiet revolution in paleoanthropology, as researchers grapple with the implication that archaic human populations were far more widespread, far more mobile, and far more genetically interconnected than the fossil record alone suggested. The fossils that gave the Denisovans their name consist of a finger bone, a few teeth, and fragmentary skull pieces. An almost vanishingly small physical record for a population whose genetic legacy appears in modern humans from Siberia to Australia. Yet, the DNA extracted from these fragments tells a story of a population that ranged across an enormous portion of the Eurasian landmass and interbred with multiple other human lineages across a span of tens of thousands of years. The genetic record preserves what the fossil record obscures: that human prehistory was a complex web of encounter, exchange, and mixture between populations whose identities and boundaries were far less fixed than our simple narratives suggest. The mathematical precision and mechanical sophistication demonstrated by ancient instruments represents the surface layer of technological anomalies that challenge conventional archaeological understanding. The Antikythera mechanism, recovered in 1901 from a Roman shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera and dating to approximately 150 BCE, contains a complex system of at least 37 meshing bronze gears that perform astronomical calculations with accuracy rivaling modern computer programs. Its ability to predict eclipses, track planetary positions, and calculate the timing of Olympic Games demonstrates mathematical and mechanical knowledge that conventional archaeology insists did not exist until medieval clockwork mechanisms over a millennium later. The gear train configuration within the Antikythera mechanism reveals understanding of differential gear systems not officially rediscovered until the 16th century. The device employs epicyclic gearing to model the variable motion of celestial bodies, accounting for elliptical orbits that cause planets to speed up and slow down. A mechanical representation of what Kepler would later formulate mathematically, predating his work by over 1,600 years. Gear teeth display uniform spacing with variations less than 1/10 of a millimeter across individual gear circumferences. The mechanism's eclipse prediction capabilities demonstrate understanding of the Saros cycle, an 18-year, 11-day, 8-hour period after which eclipses repeat, accounting for the fractional day component that causes eclipse visibility to shift geographically over time. Recent discoveries have revealed that the Antikythera mechanism was not unique, but rather represented one example of a broader tradition of mechanical computation in the ancient world. Fragments of similar devices have been recovered from archaeological contexts throughout the Mediterranean, suggesting that complex gear-driven calculating machines were more widespread than previously recognized. The Salamis tablet discovered in Cyprus contains gear fragments and bronze components matching the manufacturing techniques and mathematical principles found in the Antikythera mechanism. These fragments raise the possibility that a thriving tradition of mechanical computation existed in the ancient Mediterranean world, a tradition so thoroughly erased by subsequent historical events that only occasional physical survivals hint at its former extent. The mathematical principles underlying these ancient computing devices extend beyond simple gear ratios to encompass trigonometry and spherical geometry. The mechanisms accurately model apparent celestial motion as viewed from Earth's surface, requiring mathematical transformations that convert between different coordinate systems and account for the observer's geographical location. Calculations involving trigonometric functions and spherical projections that conventional mathematics history attributes to much later periods. The Antikythera mechanism also incorporated a calendar system that reconciled the solar year with lunar months through mechanical calculation of intercalary periods, automatically adjusting for accumulated discrepancies between different calendar systems. This dual calendar function required that the device's designers understand not only astronomy and mathematics, but also the social requirements of timekeeping in a world where agricultural cycles, religious observances, and athletic competitions all followed different rhythmic patterns that needed to be harmonized. The mechanism was, in this sense, not merely a scientific instrument, but a social one, a device for managing the relationship between human time and celestial time in a civilization that understood both. Archaeological evidence from ancient Egyptian sites reveals precision measuring instruments demonstrating capabilities far exceeding conventional expectations for Bronze Age civilizations. The royal cubit rod found in the tomb of Khea in Deir el-Medina measures exactly 52.5 centimeters in length, with subdivisions marked to accuracies of 1/10 of a millimeter. Mathematical relationships encoded in Egyptian measuring instruments reveal sophisticated understanding of geometric principles and proportional systems, incorporating knowledge of the golden ratio and other mathematical constants that appear throughout Egyptian architectural and artistic works. The Great Pyramid's base measurements vary by less than 2 centimeters across the 230-meter sides, indicating surveying accuracy approaching modern engineering standards. The pyramid's orientation aligns with cardinal directions to within 3 arc-minutes of perfect alignment, demonstrating astronomical observation capabilities, and surveying techniques requiring precision instruments and mathematical calculation methods. The internal passages and chambers of the Great Pyramid maintain dimensional tolerances that, across distances of hundreds of meters, deviate by amounts measured in centimeters, rather than the larger errors that would be expected from extended construction projects using the tools and methods conventional archaeology attributes to the builders. The proportional system embedded in the Great Pyramid's geometry has been the subject of intensive mathematical analysis for over 2 centuries. The structure encodes the value of pi in the ratio of its perimeter to its height. It encodes the golden ratio in the relationship between its apothem and half its base. The angle of its faces closely approximates the inverse sign of the golden ratio. Whether these mathematical relationships were deliberately encoded by the builders or represent coincidental convergences of aesthetically pleasing proportions is a question that divides researchers. But the precision with which the structure realizes these relationships, maintained across the full scale of the construction, implies at minimum that the builders were working within a sophisticated proportional system that they understood thoroughly enough to implement with extraordinary accuracy. Ancient Babylonian mathematical tablets reveal computational techniques demonstrating sophisticated understanding of advanced mathematics millennia before similar developments elsewhere. The Plimpton 322 tablet, dating to approximately 1800 BCE, contains a systematic list of Pythagorean triples demonstrating understanding of number theory and algebraic relationships. Seleucid period astronomical texts contain ephemeris tables predicting planetary positions across extended time periods, using mathematical models that account for varying speeds of planetary motion through sophisticated numerical approximation techniques. The Chinese south-pointing chariot, described in texts dating to the 3rd century CE, employed a complex differential gear system to maintain directional orientation regardless of the vehicle's path, a mechanical compass operating independently of magnetic influences. The armillary sphere constructed by Zhang Heng during the Han Dynasty accurately modeled celestial motion through rotating rings representing different celestial coordinates, with a mechanical drive system employing water power and escapement mechanisms that regulated rotation to match Earth's own with accuracy approaching modern chronometric standards. The Susong Clock Tower, constructed in China in 1088 CE, represents another example of mechanical sophistication that challenges assumptions about pre-modern technology. This enormous astronomical clock, standing over 10 meters tall, used a water-powered escapement mechanism to drive an armillary sphere and celestial globe, automatically tracking the positions of celestial bodies and displaying the time according to multiple concurrent calendar systems. the escapement mechanism at the heart of the clock, a device that converts continuous rotational motion into controlled, step-by-step advancement, is often credited to medieval European clockmakers. Yet Susong's tower preceded European mechanical clocks by centuries. When European Jesuit missionaries encountered Chinese astronomical instruments in the 16th and 17th centuries, they were frequently astonished by their accuracy and sophistication, reporting home that Chinese astronomy had in some respects surpassed what European science had achieved. The Jantar Manta observatories in India demonstrate mechanical engineering and mathematical capabilities that rival modern precision instruments. The Samrat Yantra, a massive sundial at the Delhi Observatory, achieves time measurement accuracy of approximately 2 seconds through careful geometric design and precision construction. The Bhadrasvara temple at Thanjavur displays dimensional relationships and proportional systems incorporating complex mathematical constants and geometric progressions. Maya astronomical tables preserved in codices predict eclipses, planetary positions, and other celestial events, with accuracy approaching modern predictions. The Dresden Codex contains Venus tables predicting the planet's synodic periods, with errors of less than 1 day across 500-year calculation spans. The precision of Maya architectural alignments at Chichen Itza incorporates astronomical alignments marking solstices, equinoxes, and other significant celestial events, with acoustic effects and shadow patterns demonstrating understanding of wave physics and geometric optics principles. The Maya long count calendar, which tracks time in a positional notation system using base 20 arithmetic, enables the unambiguous designation of any day within a period of over 5,000 years without any repetition. The mathematical infrastructure required to design and implement such a calendar, including a symbol for 0 as a positional placeholder, a concept that European mathematics did not develop independently until well into the medieval period, implies a level of abstract mathematical sophistication that challenges the conventional narrative, placing the Maya at a relatively primitive stage of civilizational development. The Maya were, by any reasonable measure, a civilization of mathematicians who happened to also build pyramids and write in glyphs. The consistency of mathematical knowledge and precision instrument technology across ancient civilizations, separated by vast distances and time periods, suggests either independent development of similar scientific principles or contact networks facilitating knowledge exchange on a global scale. Beneath the observable mechanics of gears and calculations lies a more fundamental mystery: evidence of energy manipulation and electromagnetic phenomena at ancient sites that defies explanation through Bronze Age or Iron Age technological capabilities. Modern scientific instruments applied to archaeological investigations have revealed electromagnetic signatures, unusual magnetic field variations, and energy patterns suggesting ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of forces that conventional science places thousands of years beyond their supposed capabilities. At the Giza Plateau, magnetometer surveys conducted by multiple research teams have detected significant magnetic field anomalies concentrated around the Great Pyramid and surrounding structures, variations exceeding normal geological fluctuations by factors of 10 to 50 times. The anomalies appear strongest within the pyramid's internal chambers, particularly around the King's Chamber and Grand Gallery, where magnetic field strength measurements approach levels found near modern electrical generation facilities. Ground-penetrating radar studies have revealed subsurface electromagnetic signatures, indicating the presence of metallic structures or conductive materials buried beneath the pyramid complex. forming geometric patterns extending far beyond the visible stone structures in what appears to be an extensive underground network of conductive pathways. The electromagnetic anomalies at Giza display temporal variations correlating with astronomical events and solar activity cycles. Measurements during solar maximum periods showing field strengths exceeding those during solar minimum conditions by factors of 2 to 3 times. Thermal imaging surveys have revealed temperature variations that cannot be explained through conventional heat transfer mechanisms, with certain areas of the pyramid's exterior maintaining temperatures several degrees higher than surrounding stone surfaces, despite identical material composition and environmental exposure. The limestone and granite used in the Great Pyramid's construction display electrical properties that differ from typical samples of the same geological materials. The granite in the King's Chamber contains significant concentrations of quartz, and quartz crystals exhibit piezoelectric properties. They generate electrical charge when subjected to mechanical pressure, and conversely vibrate when an electrical charge is applied to them. The enormous mass of granite in and around the King's Chamber, under constant compressive stress from the weight of the structure above, would be continuously generating low-level electrical fields throughout the stone. Whether this effect was deliberately exploited by the pyramid's designers or represents an unintended consequence of material selection remains an open question. But the physics of the phenomenon is beyond dispute, and it provides at least a partial basis for understanding why the King's Chamber generates anomalous electromagnetic readings. At Stonehenge, magnetic field measurements reveal concentric patterns of electromagnetic activity corresponding to the stone circle's geometric arrangement, strongest at the positions of the largest trilithons, and decreasing toward the perimeter. The blue stones transported from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a distance exceeding 150 miles, exhibit magnetic susceptibility values that exceed comparable samples from the source quarry by factors of 3 to 5 times, appearing to result from structural modifications within the stone's crystalline matrix. The transportation of the blue stones from Wales to Salisbury Plain is itself one of archaeology's most debated problems. The stones, some weighing up to 4 tons each, were moved across more than 150 miles of varied terrain that includes open sea crossings. The stones would have had to be transported across the Bristol Channel or around it, with either option presenting formidable logistical challenges. Recent experimental archaeology has demonstrated that moving even moderately sized stones using the methods supposedly available to Neolithic people requires considerably more effort than simple calculations suggest, particularly over the kind of difficult terrain that separates the Preseli Hills from Stonehenge. Yet the stones arrived. They were chosen specifically from their source location. They could have been quarried closer, but were not. Their selection and transportation implies that something specific about these particular stones was considered essential, and their anomalously high magnetic susceptibility may be one reason why. At Carnac in Brittany, France, the extensive megalithic alignments display electromagnetic characteristics varying systematically along the length of the stone rows. Magnetometer surveys reveal magnetic field strength increasing progressively from the western terminus towards the eastern end of the alignments, spanning over 4 kilometers of stone rows, with the magnetic field variations correlating with changes in stone size and spacing, suggesting the entire alignment was designed as a massive electromagnetic focusing device. Ground conductivity measurements reveal subsurface electromagnetic pathways connecting different sections of the alignments through underground networks of enhanced electrical conductivity. The Carnac alignments, when viewed from above, display an organizational regularity that the experience of walking among them does not prepare the visitor for. The rows of standing stones, some containing hundreds of individual menhirs, converge toward the eastern end of the alignment in a pattern that resembles a giant funnel, as if designed to gather something diffuse from a wide area and concentrate it at a specific point. The precise nature of what was being gathered and concentrated, whether electromagnetic energy, sound, symbolic meaning, ceremonial procession, or something else entirely, remains unknown. What is clear is that the builders organized thousands of stones over a distance of several kilometers, according to a coherent geometric plan that required both surveying capability and collective intention on a scale that impresses even in our own era of large infrastructure projects. Archaeological excavations at various megalithic sites have uncovered fulgurite formations, glass-like tubes formed when lightning strikes sand or rock, appearing in concentrations that exceed normal lightning strike frequencies by orders of magnitude, displaying characteristics suggesting formation through controlled electrical discharges rather than random lightning. At Avebury in England, fulgurites within the stone circle's interior display internal structures indicating sustained electrical discharges lasting several seconds, rather than the brief pulses characteristic of natural lightning. The electromagnetic scarring found on stone surfaces at various ancient sites provides direct evidence of electrical activity exceeding natural lightning intensities. At Sacsayhuaman in Peru, several massive limestone blocks display surface modifications matching the characteristics of electrical discharge damage. Scarred areas showing glass-like surface layers with metallic inclusions indicating exposure to electrical arcs with temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius. The acoustic properties discovered within ancient chamber structures reveal sophisticated sound engineering. At the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta, acoustic measurements demonstrate that carved limestone chambers amplify human voices at frequencies between 70 and 114 Hz, while suppressing higher frequency sounds. At Newgrange in Ireland, corbelled stone ceilings and curved wall surfaces focus sound waves towards the chamber's center, creating a focal point where whispered sounds become clearly audible throughout the entire space. The acoustic resonance frequencies measured at Newgrange correspond to brainwave patterns associated with altered consciousness states, with sound waves between 4 and 8 Hz creating infrasonic vibrations that can influence human consciousness and perception. The relationship between architecture and altered states of consciousness implied by these acoustic properties deserves careful thought. If the builders of Newgrange and the Hypogeum deliberately engineered their structures to produce frequencies that influence human neurological function, they were operating with a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between physical environment and mental state, an understanding that modern neuroscience has only recently begun to quantify. The altered states potentially induced by sustained exposure to specific acoustic frequencies within these chambers may have been integral to whatever ritual or ceremonial purposes the structure served. The architecture and the ceremony designed together as a single system for producing specific effects in human consciousness. At Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the ancient Indus Valley cities, soil samples and building materials contain elevated levels of radioactive isotopes exceeding normal background radiation by factors of 10 to 50 times, appearing in geometric patterns corresponding to the city's planned layouts and suggesting systematic rather than random contamination. Isotopic composition of radioactive materials at these sites includes elements with decay patterns indicating artificial production, samples containing trace amounts of plutonium-239 and other transuranium elements that do not occur naturally on Earth but require nuclear reactor processes or particle accelerator technologies to produce. The Indus Valley civilization itself remains one of archaeology's most puzzling cases of apparent sudden collapse. At its height, between roughly 2600 and 1900 BCE, it was one of the world's most extensive and sophisticated urban cultures, with cities showing evidence of advanced urban planning, including grid-patterned streets, standardized weights and measures, sophisticated drainage and sanitation systems, and a writing system that has still not been deciphered. Then, over a relatively short period, the cities were abandoned. The population dispersed. The writing system ceased to be used. The standardized weights and measures that implied centralized administrative control disappeared from the archaeological record. What caused this collapse remains genuinely uncertain. Drought, flooding, disease, invasion, and internal social disruption have all been proposed. The radioactive anomalies found at Harappan sites add another element to an already mysterious disappearance, suggesting that whatever ended these cities may have involved phenomena that conventional catastrophe theories do not fully account for. The electromagnetic anomalies and energy signatures that defy conventional explanation at ancient sites represent the surface layer of a far more troubling phenomenon: the systematic suppression of archaeological evidence that challenges established historical narratives. The Smithsonian Institution's role in this systematic suppression began in earnest during the late 19th century, when the organization transitioned from actively documenting anomalous archaeological discoveries to quietly removing such evidence from public view. Internal correspondence from the 1890s, obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, reveals a deliberate policy shift towards standardizing collections according to emerging anthropological theories that demanded strict adherence to evolutionary timelines. Artifacts and skeletal remains contradicting these theories were systematically reclassified, relocated to restricted storage areas, or reported as lost or destroyed. The documentation trail begins with the Smithsonian's own annual reports from the 1880s and 1890s, which contain detailed descriptions of giant skeletal remains, advanced artifacts, and anomalous archaeological discoveries made during official expeditions across North America. Remains transported to Washington for detailed study and permanent preservation in the National Collection. By the 1920s, references to these discoveries had vanished from Smithsonian publications, and inquiries about documented specimens were met with claims that no such materials had ever been part of the institution's collections. Former Smithsonian employees, speaking anonymously in interviews conducted during the 1970s and 1980s, described systematic disposal operations during which entire storage areas containing anomalous artifacts were emptied, with materials either destroyed outright or transferred to undisclosed locations. One former curator interviewed shortly before his death in 1982 claimed that he personally witnessed the destruction of over 30 giant skeletons during a single weekend in 1935, the remains being incinerated in the institution's basement furnaces. The pattern of evidence destruction extended beyond skeletal remains to include artifacts demonstrating technological capabilities exceeding those attributed to their supposed time periods. Internal memos from the 1940s described the removal from public display of metallic objects showing evidence of advanced metallurgy, precision manufacturing, or electrical properties contradicting established technological timelines. Universities that persisted in studying controversial materials found their federal funding threatened, or their collaborative relationships with the Smithsonian terminated. The case of Dr. Samuel Hubbard's discoveries at Havasupai Canyon provides a stark example of how institutional pressure was applied to suppress inconvenient evidence. In 1924, Hubbard, working under the auspices of the Oakland Museum, documented petroglyphs appearing to depict dinosaurs alongside human figures, challenging the conventional timeline that places dinosaur extinction 65 million years before human evolution. Hubbard's photographs and detailed documentation were initially accepted for publication in several archaeological journals, but pressure from the Smithsonian and other major institutions resulted in the withdrawal of these publications and the subsequent disappearance of much of Hubbard's photographic evidence from museum archives. The suppression extended to the field of paleontology, where discoveries of human artifacts in geological contexts predating accepted human evolution timelines were systematically discredited or ignored. The Calico Early Man site in California, excavated by Louis Leakey beginning in 1964, produced stone tools from geological layers dating to over 200,000 years ago, far predating the supposed arrival of humans in North America. Despite Leakey's international reputation and meticulous documentation, the archaeological establishment refused to acknowledge the site's significance, with the Smithsonian and other major institutions actively discouraging further research and publication of findings. Internal documents from the National Science Foundation, obtained through litigation in the 1990s, reveal that funding for research projects investigating anomalous archaeological evidence was systematically denied based on recommendations from advisory panels dominated by Smithsonian-affiliated researchers, rejected not on the basis of scientific methodology, but because their potential findings might undermine public confidence in established scientific knowledge. The British Museum's handling of anomalous artifacts parallels the Smithsonian suppression activities. Internal correspondence from the 1930s describes the reorganization of collections, resulting in permanent removal of artifacts showing evidence of advanced ancient technology. One extensively documented case involves granite vessels from Egypt with internal geometries requiring advanced machining techniques and stone boxes with perfectly flat surfaces and precise right angles, initially displayed and studied, then transferred to secure storage areas by the 1950s, with subsequent inquiries met with claims of loss during wartime relocations or deterioration beyond useful study. Among the most striking suppressed discoveries involves the extraordinary precision granite work studied by engineer Christopher Dunn during the 1980s and 1990s. Dunn, applying professional machining expertise to the examination of ancient Egyptian stonework, documented granite boxes, sarcophagi lids, and vessel interiors displaying surface tolerances and geometric precision that, in his assessment, could only have been achieved using machinery equivalent to modern computer-controlled machining equipment. His measurements showed flatness tolerances of a few thousandths of an inch, maintained across granite surfaces of considerable extent, tolerances that represent the upper limit of what modern precision machining can achieve. When Dunn attempted to present these findings through conventional academic channels, he encountered the familiar pattern of rejection, dismissal, and institutional indifference that characterizes the treatment of anomalous evidence throughout the archaeological establishment. The suppression extended to academic publishing, where editorial boards of major archaeological journals implemented informal policies effectively banning publication of research challenging conventional timelines. Dr. Virginia Steen McIntyre's experience with the Hueyatlaco archaeological site in Mexico illustrates the career-destroying consequences faced by researchers who persisted in studying controversial evidence. Her geological dating of the site using multiple independent techniques consistently indicated human occupation levels dating to over 250,000 years ago, contradicting accepted theories about human migration to the Americas. When she attempted to publish these findings, she encountered systematic rejection from major journals, loss of university affiliation, and professional ostracism that effectively ended her academic career. Internal laboratory protocols revealed through whistleblower testimony described procedures for adjusting radiocarbon dating results that fell outside acceptable ranges, applying correction factors that brought anomalous dates into alignment with conventional chronologies. Samples persistently producing problematic dates were often subjected to repeated testing until results conforming to expected timelines were obtained, with earlier anomalous results being discarded as contaminated or unreliable. Government agencies played a crucial role in the suppression network through their control over archaeological permits, funding allocations, and access to significant sites. The Bureau of Land Management and National Park Service developed policies effectively restricting independent research at sites where controversial discoveries had been made. Internal documents from the National Science Foundation, obtained through litigation in the 1990s, reveal that funding for research projects investigating anomalous archaeological evidence was systematically denied based on recommendations from advisory panels dominated by Smithsonian-affiliated researchers. Rejected not on the basis of scientific methodology, but because their potential findings might undermine public confidence in established scientific knowledge. The Dead Sea Scrolls controversy illustrates how religious institutions controlled access to significant archaeological discoveries to prevent challenges to established doctrines. Despite initial promises of open scholarly access, the international team responsible for scroll publication maintained restrictive policies limiting study to approved researchers, with scrolls containing potentially controversial content withheld from publication for decades. The Nag Hammadi Library, discovered in Egypt in 1945, presents a parallel case in which religious institutional interests shaped access to and interpretation of significant textual discoveries. The library consists of 13 leather-bound codices containing 52 texts, representing a wide variety of early Christian and Gnostic writings, many of which had been entirely unknown to modern scholarship. The full text of the library was not made available to the general scholarly community until 1977, more than 30 years after discovery. Due to a combination of institutional ownership disputes, deliberate access restrictions, and the influence of religious organizations whose doctrinal positions were challenged by some of the text's contents. The delay in full publication meant that an entire generation of biblical scholars and historians worked without access to texts that substantially complicated conventional narratives about early Christianity. The Kensington Runestone case illustrates how government agencies coordinated with academic institutions to discredit discoveries challenging conventional historical narratives. The stone discovered in Minnesota in 1898, bearing runic inscriptions suggesting pre-Columbian Scandinavian presence in North America, was subjected to decades of analysis that consistently confirmed its authenticity. However, pressure from the Smithsonian and other institutions resulted in official government statements dismissing the artifact as a hoax, despite geological and linguistic evidence supporting its genuine antiquity. Military involvement in archaeological suppression became apparent through declassified documents revealing Pentagon interest in controlling access to sites where advanced ancient technologies might be discovered. The Department of Defense maintained classified files on archaeological sites with potential strategic significance, including locations where artifacts with unusual electromagnetic properties or advanced metallurgical characteristics had been found. Educational institutions at all levels participated in the suppression through curriculum development that systematically excluded controversial archaeological evidence from standard coursework. Graduate students quickly learned that career advancement required adherence to approved theories and avoidance of controversial topics, creating a self-perpetuating system ensuring future generations of archaeologists would maintain suppression policies. Modern technology has made the suppression more sophisticated, with digital databases and electronic communications enabling real-time coordination between institutions worldwide. The digitization of archaeological records has enabled retroactive editing of historical documents, with inconvenient evidence removed from electronic archives and replaced with sanitized versions supporting conventional narratives. The financial mechanisms supporting suppression activities involve complex networks of private foundations, government agencies, and corporate interests that fund archaeological research according to predetermined agendas. Funding organizations maintain informal policies, directing resources toward projects supporting established theories, while denying support for research that might produce controversial findings. The dependence of archaeological institutions on external funding creates powerful incentives for self-censorship and compliance with suppression policies. When we step back and examine the totality of this anomalous evidence, from precision-machined megalithic structures to electromagnetic signatures at ancient sites, from impossible metallurgy to advanced mathematical instruments, a coherent alternative narrative emerges that fundamentally challenges evolutionary models of human technological development. Rather than the linear progression from primitive stone tools to modern technology that conventional archaeology promotes, the evidence suggests cycles of advanced civilization followed by catastrophic decline, with periodic rediscovery and loss of sophisticated knowledge across millennia. The precision stone cutting at Pumapunku, the corrosion-resistant iron of the Delhi Pillar, and the computational sophistication of the Antikythera mechanism demonstrate that ancient civilizations possessed manufacturing capabilities, metallurgical knowledge, and mathematical understanding approaching or exceeding modern standards in specific domains. The global distribution of similar anomalous technologies points toward either remarkable independent development of identical solutions or extensive contact networks facilitating knowledge transfer across vast distances. The concept of civilizational cycles, of advanced societies rising to sophistication and then collapsing, leaving only fragmentary evidence of their achievements, is not merely speculative, but has some support from the geological and archaeological record. The Younger Dryas period, roughly 12,800 to 11,700 years ago, represents one of the most dramatic climate events in recent geological history. A sudden return to near-glacial conditions following the initial warming at the end of the last ice age, caused, current evidence suggests, by a massive cosmic impact event or series of impact events that disrupted North American and Eurasian climates simultaneously. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, supported by a growing body of physical evidence including shocked quartz, nanodiamonds, and platinum group element enrichment at the appropriate geological horizon on multiple continents, suggests that approximately 12,800 years ago, a catastrophic event occurred that would have been fully capable of ending any advanced civilization that existed at that time, and resetting human development to a more primitive starting point. The timing of this hypothetical catastrophe is significant. Göbekli Tepe begins its construction immediately after the Younger Dryas ends. The earliest megalithic sites in multiple parts of the world cluster in a period shortly after this catastrophic interval. If an advanced civilization existed before the Younger Dryas event and was largely destroyed by it, the megalithic building that followed might represent not the first flowering of human architectural ambition, but its recovery. The survivors of a sophisticated culture attempting to rebuild, to record, to preserve through stone what had been lost in the catastrophe. The cartographic evidence provides perhaps the most compelling support for global ancient civilization networks. The accuracy of Antarctic coastlines on medieval maps, the precision of longitude calculations in ancient charts, and the systematic knowledge of magnetic declination values across ocean basins demonstrate navigational capabilities that required coordinated observation programs spanning continents. Capabilities that could only result from systematic exploration conducted by civilizations possessing advanced maritime technology, precise timekeeping instruments, and sophisticated mathematical knowledge. The biological anomalies documented in skeletal remains worldwide add another dimension to this alternative historical model. The elongated skulls found from Peru to the Caucasus, the giant skeletal remains reported across North America and Europe, and the genetic signatures that do not fit conventional human migration patterns suggest population diversity extending beyond current understanding of human evolution and development. The technological anachronisms preserved in ancient texts, aerospace technologies described in Sanskrit writings, electrical devices depicted in Egyptian reliefs, mechanical automata documented in Chinese writings, demonstrate that advanced technological knowledge existed within historical memory, even when physical artifacts themselves have been lost or destroyed. These textual sources preserve technical specifications and operational procedures corresponding to modern engineering principles, suggesting that ancient authors were documenting actual technologies rather than creating fantasy literature. The electromagnetic and acoustic properties discovered at ancient sites reveal understanding of energy manipulation and wave physics that conventional science attributes to much later periods. The resonance frequencies engineered into megalithic chambers, the electromagnetic focusing achieved through stone alignments, and the acoustic properties designed into architectural spaces demonstrate systematic knowledge of physics principles that enabled practical applications for communication, consciousness alteration, and possibly energy generation. The systematic suppression documented across institutional networks worldwide reveals more than mere academic conservatism. It exposes a deliberate effort to maintain historical narratives that serve existing power structures while concealing evidence of humanity's far more complex and technologically sophisticated past. The financial mechanisms, coordinated policies, and career-destroying consequences faced by researchers who challenge conventional timelines create a comprehensive barrier against truth that operates with remarkable efficiency across multiple continents and institutional hierarchies. The implications of integrating anomalous evidence into historical understanding would transform our conception of human potential and civilization's possible trajectories. Rather than viewing current technological civilization as the inevitable result of linear progress, we would recognize it as one possible path among many, with alternative approaches offering potentially superior solutions to persistent human challenges. The advanced metallurgy, precision manufacturing, and energy manipulation demonstrated by ancient civilizations provide evidence that sophisticated technology can be achieved through approaches differing fundamentally from contemporary industrial methods. The concept of alternative technological pathways, of civilizations that achieved sophistication through fundamentally different means than those our own civilization has employed, becomes less abstract when considered in light of the specific evidence. The electromagnetic manipulation apparent at Karnak and Giza did not require fossil fuels or semiconductor manufacturing. The acoustic engineering evident at Newgrange and the Hypogeum required only stone and the knowledge of how to shape it. The corrosion-resistant metallurgy of the Delhi Pillar was achieved through smelting processes that, while clearly sophisticated, did not depend on the vast industrial infrastructure of modern steel production. These were high-knowledge, low-infrastructure technologies, approaches to solving practical problems that worked within the constraints of available materials and energy sources, rather than seeking to overcome those constraints through sheer industrial force. This characteristic, high knowledge, low infrastructure, may be precisely what makes ancient advanced technologies so difficult for modern researchers to recognize and accept. Our own civilization's technological achievements are so thoroughly intertwined with industrial infrastructure, energy consumption, and material throughput that we have difficulty conceptualizing sophistication that does not leave the same kind of large-scale material footprint. An ancient civilization that achieved precision manufacturing through a deep understanding of material properties and carefully developed technique, rather than through machine tools and quality control systems, would leave archaeological traces that look completely different from what our own technology would leave. And those traces might easily be misread as evidence of primitive craft rather than advanced knowledge. The anomalous artifacts, impossible constructions, and advanced technologies documented across continents and millennia stand as testimony to human capabilities that transcend current understanding of what ancient civilizations could achieve. Practical demonstrations of alternative approaches to technology, construction, and energy utilization that could inform solutions to contemporary challenges. The precision stone cutting, requiring no industrial infrastructure, the metallurgy producing corrosion-resistant materials through elegant techniques, and the electromagnetic manipulation operating through architectural design rather than complex machinery, all suggest that sophisticated technology need not depend on environmentally destructive industrial processes. The reconstruction of human history, based on complete evidence rather than selective interpretation, reveals a species whose technological and intellectual achievements extend far deeper into the past than conventional narratives suggest. This expanded understanding of human capability provides a foundation for recognizing that current limitations on technological development, social organization, and environmental harmony may reflect institutional constraints rather than inherent human limitations. The advanced ancient civilizations, whose achievements have been systematically suppressed, demonstrate that humanity possesses potential that remains largely unrealized in contemporary society. The stones of Pumapunku, the iron pillar of Delhi, the crystal skull of Lubantun, the gears of the Antikythera mechanism. Each of these objects represents a window into a past that was more sophisticated, more interconnected, and more accomplished than the history we have been taught to accept. Each one stands as a quiet invitation to look more carefully, think more openly, and hold our assumptions about human history a little less tightly. Only by abandoning the artificial constraints imposed by establishment archaeology and embracing the full complexity of the archaeological record can we begin to understand humanity's true heritage and unlock the knowledge necessary for creating a more advanced, sustainable, and equitable future. The time has come to acknowledge that the archaeological record contains evidence of human achievements that fundamentally challenge every assumption underlying conventional historical narratives, and that this evidence, long suppressed by institutional gatekeepers for over a century, holds lessons that extend far beyond academic curiosity into the very heart of what humanity is and what it might yet become. And so, dear listener, we let the story come to rest here, gently, like a leaf settling onto still water. All these ancient stones and silent metals, all these forgotten maps and buried instruments, they will wait patiently for us in the darkness, as they have always waited, holding their secrets with the same quiet endurance they have shown across thousands of years. Let your breathing slow now. Let the images soften and blur at their edges. The precision-cut stones of the Altiplano, the rust-free pillar standing through 1,000 monsoon seasons, the crystal skull catching the last of the light in some deep jungle chamber. Let them drift away, one by one, into the comfortable darkness behind your closed eyes. There is nothing more to hold on to tonight. The ancient world will be there tomorrow, still mysterious, still patient, still full of questions that may never be fully answered. And that is all right. Some mysteries are meant to be carried gently, like stones smooth from a river, turned over slowly in the hand, rather than broken open all at once. You are warm. You are still. The questions can rest now, and so can you. Good night, and sleep well.